We are live again.
Good.
I do apologize to the listening audience who is live. When I shared my document the last time, when I was going back to my original screen, it had stopped the entire broadcast. So we're going to just pick up where we left off, and I'll try to sync the two videos when I can, so you can get a seamless part of the interview. But for just a brief recap, I gave a little synopsis of my hunch on a possible African origin of the word shōgun, which is known for being a military leader in Japan. And I gave that evidence. And just as our brother Bayemy was about to add his commentary, that's when the fiasco happened. So we're going to just pick up where we left off. And so, Brother Bayemy, you have the floor.
Yes. So I can add that this is very possible. Not only possible, very possible. Because that civilization is entirely African. And what was happening in that region, you know, what we call the peninsula, the Korean peninsula today in Japan, when you see the map, you see that this is the end. You have the Pacific Ocean like a kind of wall. So anything significant come from the continent, the mainland. So the people who were living in what we call Japan today, they absolutely needed contacts, you know, exchanges with the mainland. And the nearest kingdom or part of land was what we call today South Korea. But that was the place of Kudara that they called in Asian ancient texts, whether Korean or Chinese, they call it PAEKCHE. Because they changed everything. After they killed them, they suppressed everything. You see, to erase them from official history, even the how do you say, popular imagination, everything. It was really hard it is very hard to imagine that black people were here. It's even impossible because there is no clue except the messages. Now those
I'm sorry to cut you off here, but you brought up something that I wonder if, and I don't know why I didn't think about this to at least bring it to the conversation. At least you can look at a video on YouTube, where these Chinese geneticists are discovering, you know, these African origins or these African DNA, you know, in their population. So I guess there was some kind of propaganda to where they were kind of autochthonous to the region, but the DNA is showing, you know, an African origin for these people. But I'm wondering if it's just simply African origin in terms of the original out of Africa migrations, you know, 50,000 years ago, or were they detecting more recent, you know, African ancestry? And that I don't know right off the top of my head, and I would have to go back and research that. But I'm sorry, that may have thrown you off in terms of your thought. But just wanted to put that out there. Go ahead.
Yeah, I see. Let's say in this research, okay, I researched the last 4,000 years of Asian history.
Okay.
I mean the world history from minus 2000 to 1945.
Okay.
Yeah. So I might be able to discuss any subject on whether on Japanese history, Korean history, or Chinese history in this period of time. And specifically, I went to very details, and this is the source of my article. I went to very detail in this period, starting from the 3rd to the 7th century, because this part, after analyzing the 4,000 years, when I told you that I was starting a literary research, no, a literary project, but I couldn't work with the official material because there was something wrong. So I started researching by myself, and I used the mathematics. Could be very scary to people, but why do you need mathematics when you are researching in history? Of course, we need. This is what I called in my communications, the African science, not the science as I learned it in Europe here. No, the African science, because if you have some knowledge in mathematics and especially statistics. Statistics is about numbers, but these numbers were called by our ancestors, and you may know about that because you know a lot about Egypt, what they call Egypt, which is in fact Africa, right? They call our ancestor called mathematics a method, is a tool to unveil the mystery of the nature of the universe. Is the language. So if you master that language, you can communicate with the universe, with the nature. This is the meaning. So I used the statistics and the basic law of statistics that we learn in at school, but using them in a little different way. This enabled me to change the historical fact into figures, into numbers, and to check in that big amount of numbers, if those statistic law that we know are present, are working, or could be checked. I don't know if you understand what I mean.
Yes, I understand.
I wanted to check if this historical event that I turn into numbers are fake or not. If they are right, if this is real history, normally I'm gonna find things like in French we call that loi normale, but this kind of curve is a kind of curve. This curve that we call normal, maybe in English normal law. Yeah, very simple things like that. And also, I must be able. I should be able to find in these figures the sinus function. Sinus function.
Or the sign, yeah.
Yeah, because yeah, the sinus function. Because in the universe, in any activity, you have a kind of movement of ups and down, and this movement of ups and down, or upwards and downwards, appears very clearly on the long term. You really need a big amount of data to find it. Yeah, and I could find it. From the beginning to the 3rd century, and it disappeared between the 3rd century and the 7th century, and then from the 7th century, it doesn't appear really. So it means that this information we have that we call history are fake. This is not real history. It was made. It was designed for some reason by some people. I couldn't know. I had to find out who made this, why, and with which aim, which was the goal to do this. That's why I chose this period to go into the detail.
So basically, part of, just besides your own experience on the ground in terms of the history and things of that nature, what you're saying is that you used, in part, as one of your tools of analysis, mathematics that you learn in statistics to look for anomalies in the data. And so basically, from a discrete mathematical standpoint, you essentially use the primitive tools of logic. In
Yes.
that when we talk about logic is really the study of consequences, and does the consequences or the conclusions follow the premises.
Yes.
So when we're looking at the history as told by the historians, the popular history, the conclusion, when we look at the premises for the conclusions, that doesn't seem to work. So if it's one of those in statistics, that for P therefore Q, if P therefore Q, and you basically put a truth table together and was like, okay, these aren't matching here. So let me see what's causing these fluctuations in my data.
Exactly.
And you went from there. If I'm explaining, I'm trying to somewhat explain it for our audience if they didn't catch what you were saying. So hopefully,
Thank you very much, because you perfectly explained that. The second step of the research. The first step was to first learn all about the history. It was like I was like a research engine. You see, I have to swallow everything without analyzing, just reading the official history meaning from the ancient text. Most of them, and the most important of them, are translated in English, and the quality. No, the translation quality was not at stake. It was not, from my point of view, an issue, because usually the translation is quite good. So I had no problem with the data themselves. You see, so after learning all this for, like, let's say 10 to 12 years, I made this analysis, statistical analysis, and the last part was then to focus on this period of time which doesn't work or doesn't match with anything, which seems bizarre, kind of, you see. So from the 7th century, in this area which we call today Korea or Japan. So I focused on the ancient history of Japan and the Koreas and China, those three countries, or 4 countries, let's say, because Korea is 2 countries today, right? Yeah. So I focus on this in the details, and in the official history and documents, they erased the ancient period, but they didn't erase it like they got rid of everything. No, they made a selection. It's a combination of true and false. Can I say that? Or right and wrong? Yeah, it's a combination. So I had to. This is hard to explain for me, especially in English. But let's say I have to first to understand the whole thing, the picture, and to start to pick, to make a kind of calculation. Is this even possible or not? For some reason, for some under some conditions, political conditions, logical condition, political conditions, military conditions. Because, for example, the war. If you come to read about history in Asia, they talk a lot about war. It's about war all the time. But the war is not only about violence. War is not even about violence. It's only the last step. The last step, when you send the soldiers, you see the soldiers killing people. The most important part of the war is before. Is the previous steps, when people decide to make war or to attack some country. This is the most important. They need a reason. They need a reason, a very sound reason, because there are some people who financed or support the war. They need a very good reason to do this. The government itself, they need good reasons, and they need money. You see, if those conditions are not available, there's no war. The war is not possible. You need a lot of a lot of elements to make resources, yes, to make such an event possible. And most of the time, you don't have. I couldn't find such events. You also need, for example, an ideology, because you can't send human beings to kill even black people just like that. They need a reason. You have to tell them something to make it possible. And this thing is the ideology. You have to say something. You have to build a set of ideas. I couldn't find this set of ideas in the case of those who were there talk about the history. So I was most of the time 100% sure that this part is false. This part is true, but it was changed for this reason. So step by step, I could reconstruct the whole thing. So at this moment, I think that as I told you, 99% of the thing. So Kudara was probably the real name of that kingdom, not Paekche. Paekche comes from the Chinese people who wanted that black kingdom to be forgotten. So there is no Paekche, but I used Paekche as the title of my works,
Okay.
like to suppress the official idea of Paekche and to replace it with the right Paekche. But when we go forward, we're gonna start using Kudara. So the title of the book is the Paekche's Principle, the Great Secret of Asia, so that people are gonna remember this Paekche instead of the Chinese Paekche.
Now, a research question that I know will come up, given what you just said, is that with Kudara meaning the basically black people, would the people have called themselves that, or because even that would still be, it would seem to me, an external name. So is there any survivor? I'm sorry.
It could could you repeat the last sentence?
Now I gotta remember what I just said. Let me just rewind.
Oh, okay.
I know a question that will come up, from researchers, given what you just said.
Yeah.
And you're saying that their original name is Kudara, meaning the black people, but that would seem more so still to be a name that a neighboring people who were not black would have given them. So the question being, is there any survival of the name that they would have called themselves versus, Kudara?
My reply to them will be, your question and even my answer are not important. They are secondary question and answer. Why? Because right now we are talking about a kingdom that doesn't exist. Right now, we are talking about Kudara, but Kudara is very rare to find Kudara in the research data. It's very rare, and it's this name, this translation, country of black people, comes from Japanese people. You see, so if they ask me about a kingdom which officially doesn't exist, it's the answer of their own question. I don't know if you understand what I mean. I mean that they were suppressed, they were killed, they were genocide, everything were destroyed. There is no, you can't find anything about the black people in Northeast Asia. You can't, naturally like that. Or you have to go to the temples. For example, I went to Japan, in Nara and in Kyoto, in some Buddhist temples, very old Buddhist temples, which are not open to foreigners or to visitors. Even Japanese people can go there. So I was very lucky to meet people who were members of the administration of such temples. And there you have the painting characters featuring black people. physical trait. You understand?
Yeah.
And second, in my research, I could find the proof that that kingdom and those people were black people. That's why I could reach these results, because I could read what is not easily readable, because these Asian people, they're living there, they couldn't see anything. They couldn't see anything, but the information is there. And if I can read the information, it's because I used my cultural heritage from Africa, because I was born and I was raised there. And I was raised in a normal African family, not special. Not we don't really have scholars in my family. We are just normal people, but we know our history and we know our culture. Technically, yeah. So I'm 199.9999 sure that these are black people. And now that we have this PAEKCHE'S principle, researchers like your research and the findings you could have from African history will help us reconstruct what the Chinese have destroyed. The Chinese and the ancestors of Korean people have destroyed. I mean, the Kudara kingdom. It's possible to rebuild it, to reshape it, to find out how it was, the institutions, the traditions. Yeah.
Now, it was interesting is I'm working on a book now, and it's a part 2 to my 2013 work, Aluja, and part of the discussion is going to be, and it's really kind of part of a larger discussion. So even within that discussion, it's a minor discussion. On the African origins of the word Buddha. And, Buddha is a word meaning, awakened one. And what I argue in the text is that Buddha, and matter of fact, this will lead me to another question I have for you. So, this will lead in perfectly. So, you and I are both familiar with Jean-Claude Mbuli.
Yes.
Who has written a text translated into English as The Origin of African Languages.
Yes.
And in his methodology, or I should say, as a result of his research, he put forth the argument that the Negro Egyptian language family developed as a result of accentuations on the words or the vocabulary, 2 different methods for formulating words, for which he describes as kikwe or kweki.
Mm-hmm.
And so what you'll find, in if you notice what I'm saying, kikwe and kweki are the same word, but the syllables are switched in the words. Mm-hmm. And that as a result of a convergent history where migrating groups continue to interact with each other over time and spread and re-interacting with each other after different dialects and languages, you find these different word borrowings into these languages that seem like different words, but it's the same word, which may be pronounced different as a result of sound change, or it's the same word because the syllables have switched.
Yes.
And so that word, saying all of that to say that word Buddha is the same word as what we call Seba in the ancient Egyptian language, which is a word for teacher and instructions and books and stuff like this. Now, what's interesting, what I found out is that the word Seba actually means, it comes from a root meaning to open. And the S is a causative prefix on the Ba root. and it means basically to open the eyes. A seba, when it comes to teacher, is one who opens one's eyes. In knowledge is seen as in terms of having your eyes open. In other words, so that's that. So you get seba is also a word for being wise, and stuff like this. And so you had sebas, people who were wise men, saying, going around teaching or whatnot. And you find this word all across Africa in its Kikwe and Kweki versions. And so now you get the Buddha, which is backwards, because for some languages it was a D or a T, the S sound. You know what I'm saying? So it translates as an awakened one, but it literally comes from a word meaning to open the eyes, or to give sight. Literally, it means to give sight, because the causative is a word for give. So give sight, or give, or cause to open the eyes, or cause to open the heads. So, it seems like all these bits and pieces are coming together to show the stream of Africans and their interactions with other people, the remnants of the earlier human beings who settled in these areas, and how that has come to shape modern culture. When I say all that to say, because I saw one of your earlier interviews, you mentioned, 3 scholars that were influential in your work and methodology, that being Sheikh Anta Diop, Brother Mbak, the Mbari Mbak, if I'm saying that correct, and Jean-Claude Mboli. So I wanted you to kind of touch on those scholars a bit, and what did you learn from them that helped you in your research?
Oh, okay, thank you. Yeah, I want to mention there's African scholars, not because they influence my methodology in reality.
Okay.
Yeah, it's because when I found that this Kudara civilization was an African civilization, and especially the level of civilization, they had the same information we have today in terms of mathematics, geometry, astronomy. Everything is there. You see, the native non-African cultured people never had the time and the means to develop such a high-level scientific culture. It's only African people who can do that, you see? But I need to find out how this knowledge came down to Japan and what we call Japan and Korea today. How where those people were coming from. I was wondering that way. When I found that I better maybe look in other directions, such as linguistics. This is why I came to linguistics, which sounds to me like something like a very strong technique. I mean, a very powerful technique. You see, investigation technique, let's say, and that's the reason why I came across Jean-Claude Mboli's Les origines des langues africaines in French. The origin of African languages, you say in English, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's quite the same. It's kind of the same title in French. They just translated the same thing. What I learned in his what helped me, what was very important in his how do you say land, it's a landmark work.
Landmark work, yes.
Yeah, in his landmark work, really, for me, it's a landmark work, is that his study and analysis of African languages following his comparative method helped me to make to be sure that African people, or especially African culture and civilization, came from Africa to and outside Africa through the and the what we call today the how do you say the, and near east.
Yes. Yeah, you can say Near East or Arabia or
and then Middle East Asia,
yeah.
and then Far East Asia. You see, so this, but I had this idea, but I had no mean to prove this, because I had some clue. I have some very serious fact showing me that even these Kudara people, they could not pass. They could not pass on this high level of tradition, of scientific traditions, so long without having a permanent contact with African people. It's very difficult.
Yeah.
So I want to find that in this development, very fast development, because Kudara was, from my own projections, I think that Kudara was founded around the second century, at least. No, at last. So this very high civilization, this Kudara is the most brilliant civilization of Asian history, with no comparison, you see. But I think that they couldn't do that alone. Just this 15 to 20 million people I estimated. They couldn't make it, even if they were African and they kept their tradition the best way. They couldn't do that without the help of African people directly coming from Africa. I think that they were African people coming from Africa directly, and in connection, in exchanges with this Kudara kingdom in the peninsula and in Japan directly.
Now, I'm sorry. Did I?
Yeah, no. So the linguistic. This is the help that Jean-Claude Mboli brought me, because his linguistics shows that we have movements of populations outside Africa. Outside Africa, it's wars in the east direction. Do you see?
Yes.
Do you understand? Yeah.
Yes.
And for Mbogdi Bombari helped me to because he made some how do you say that? Mbogdi Bombari has this project to read, to decipher the Chicam language. I mean the hieroglyphs, what we call hieroglyphs. His purpose is to read the hieroglyphs, to consider hieroglyphs like ideograms. You see, like ideas. These signs are ideas, and these signs were written by black people speaking a language which is genetically connected to nowadays African languages. So black African people today, using their own language, must be able to decipher this without any effort, by only finding in their own language the words designating the sign that they see, you see, and then following this way of reading the hieroglyphs or the Chicam that you know better than I do. So he made this work in the detail, and he came to some result, you see, and he can decipher these some text or some words in a he can get some results quite different from what is usually achieved by the how do you call them, Egyptologist. Yeah, I mean the common Egyptologists, this technique of used by Egyptologists. So his techniques is let's say more or natural or more logic from the African point of view,
Yeah.
saying that this is Egypt is African, is Africa. So let's use African languages to decipher. So he made he used he no he helped to find out correspondence, or homonymies between words, and to shape some semantic field, some semantic about some notions. And I use this word where he's comparing for the same symbol. He's gonna use several African languages and find out that these African languages use more or less the same word, or the same. Those words have the same radical, and the prefix and the suffix being quite different, a little bit different, or sometimes you have a revert of syllables. You see, but those so-called different languages are in fact very related languages because they are originate from the same source. You see, and this is how he came to uh, to form some semantic field about symbolic elements such as how can I say such as for example the pyramids, or some signs I could find in the temples. I don't have the English word now, that's why I'm hesitating a little bit. But his linguistic research helped me to have this material already ready to be used. So I used his translation from African languages. No, I used his combination, or his the homonymies he found between African languages to translate what I found in Asia, and to show that these words already embed. Yes, these words, African words, already embed the scientific notions that no, the scientific notions of the inventions in Asia that we found there. It means that historically, even if in Africa now is a kind of place of disorder, or is a colonized place, is a colonized continent or country, but African people can prove that they have a long history of mathematics, in geometry, in astronomy, and everything, because in their language it's encapsulated all the knowledge, this mathematic and astronomic knowledge is in the language. And Boc de Bombardier's works helps to make this knowledge come out, and I just use it to make the analogy with what I could find there, and show that in fact we can come back to Africa using Boc de Bombardier's works, and see that in the African language we already have the notions, we have the concept, mathematical concepts that I found in Korea, in the temples, in the geometry, some geometrical symbols that they used, because this is the proof. This is what proved us that it was African people that designed these temples that we found in Korea, because in Africa we have this concept in the language.
See,
You see,
now
so
it's. I'm gonna say something, and then I'm gonna play the devil's advocate, as we say.
yeah.
Yeah. Now, the reason why I asked about the original name, if it had survived, is because in linguistics, part of our research method in determining if a people have migrated is that usually, or often I should say, when a people migrate wholesale, and it's not a result necessarily of scattering and absorbing. So let's say that, you know, whatever ethnic group you belong to, something happened and it caused them to disperse. And then they just met up with other people and just merged with them, leaving their identity, you know, but not that kind of case. This kind of case is for some reason y'all moved, and the same name that you had in your original home, you brought with you and renamed yourself in the new location. And so, just like, for example, when you go to England, there's a place called Yorktown, right? When you come to the United States, we have New York. You know, just like you have a Jersey in England. You also have New Jersey in the United States. We even, like, I'm from Texas, and we even have a Paris, Texas. And you know the history, because the French in the early American history had the territory of what we call Louisiana and parts of Texas. And so it was a lot of French influence and speakers and people who moved there. So you have towns and groups from France, I mean, towns and stuff from France with the same name as over here. So that's what Shōgun used to determine, for example, that a lot of people in West Africa and Central Africa originally came from the Nile Valley in Sudan, because we find the same names for the ethnic groups and families in, for example, Senegal, that we find in Sudan. So how can you explain that? Only by migration. So if you have, just saying as a tool of analysis, if you have the record of the people and what they called themselves originally, you could possibly, in theory at least, you could possibly pinpoint what group specifically migrated from Africa, you know, saying, into that region. So I wanted to throw that out there. And secondly, now here's the devil's advocate part.
Yeah.
It would seem as if you are arguing, because you made the statement that these other groups in Asia did not have the leisure time or whatever to come up with these deep philosophic and scientific concepts that the Africans did. And so what a historian would argue is that that sounds a lot like the Hermetic theory of European people, in that, you know, Europeans tried to argue that the Africans did not have the scientific wherewithal to come up with any of whatever they deemed as parts of civilization in Africa. And it's a result of the Europeans coming into Africa and creating civilization. And it has nothing to do with the indigenous people themselves. So on the reverse side, it would seem as if you're saying that, you know, with the, you know, quote unquote, non-Black Asians. And so what would be the argument, you know, for and against that argument, which is bound to come up based on your commentary?
Yeah. So, okay. I think I understood you. So if I could sum up your question, let's say if I could repeat your question in different words. So as I say that those Black people were, I mean, the progenitors of such a high civilization, and I so what are the proof that they were in fact I mean the creator of such a civilization? So what is the proof that let's say the white Asian people couldn't do the same thing, right? Is it? Yeah.
In essence, yes. So, you know, why didn't they have their own? Why wouldn't we argue that they didn't have their own means of science and things of that nature, and it just combined with the Africans, you know, later, and you know, and it was a, why not put forth the hypothesis that there was a mutual, sense of borrowing and improvement on the knowledge.
I see. I see. But because, well, what we call science, what do we call science today in the 21st century? There is no science. What we call science today, most of the time, sorry. What we call what we call science today in the 21st century is a package of science. Let's say what we call hard science. That is to say, mathematics, physics, chemistry, and what else? Yeah, physics. These activities was born and developed in Africa. They are not universal. Science is not universal. This is a specific, this is a specific cultural view and interaction with the universe. And this is from African. Only African people can prove that they have such an activity on a long-term basis. No other people at this time have been able to prove that. The white people who we used to say that, oh, well, this is wrong, or we did better or something, they are politicians. They are not scientists. They are politicians. This is about politics. So as long as I know, today we don't have such questions about, well, what science comes from, or are you really sure that African people were the progenitor of this long heritage of science? Or are you sure that Asian people didn't do better? No, I think that today we are the honest science researchers or scientists know that what we call science, this heritage of knowledge, comes from Africa. And you people have been, the scientists who are interested in linguistics and the ancient history of Africa, you know a lot about it. You know, after Cheikh Anta Diop in the 70s, we could assure that African civilization is the mother of civilization. The mother means that the other people, wherever they came from Europe or from Asia, including the Chinese, they used our knowledge in order to build what they call today their own culture. And in the case of China, in my research, I could, in the detail, I could prove that, for example, the religion, this Buddhism, it was practiced from ancient China to today, is a process. It's a political and a military process of controlling these populations, these black people population who was running outside India because they were, let's say, objects to racism there, from some white population coming from Central Asia. Central Asia. So they have to, how do you say? You say fly away? No, I don't know. They have to run.
We flee.
They have to flee downwards to what we call today Sri Lanka or South India, and eastward, because in all those areas, you know, until from my research until the beginning of our era, the majority of the population in Asia is black people. The majority. So all along their way from India to Japan, they could find very important communities of people of African culture. What I call African culture is this legacy of science and spirituality, not religion. spirituality. This spirituality could be called Buddhism, because Buddhism, this original Buddhism, is not the Buddhism we know today. Buddhism has ancient Buddhism. I mean, the African Buddhism have as a content. It has science in the core of its. I mean, in the core of its. How do you say? In the core of its, say, corpus. If I say corpus, does it make sense? Let's say Buddhism is mainly science. Yes, Buddhism is mainly and generally spirituality in Africa is about science. There is no religion in Africa. It doesn't exist. Religion is a set of dogma. We don't have dogma in African culture. Now, the religion you have in Africa are some political weapons to control the population, because African people today are slaves, and especially spiritual slaves. We have no religion in Africa. We have a spirituality, and that spirituality's main, how can I say, material? Yes, material is the science, mathematics, astronomy, because this is the way our ancestors could understand the universe, and this is the way they could understand that there is something else that organized everything, that controls everything at every moment. This is what some other people came to call God. This is the long tradition we have in Africa, and we still have it. Even this Africa, I'm saying, is a colonized territory. The level of knowledge in Africa today, when you meet an African student who studied in Africa, his level of mathematics, in physics, in geometry, is higher than in Europe. It's not because we are more intelligent. It's because African culture is science. All African culture is science.
Now,
so
I would argue, or at least put forth the argument, continuing in my devil's advocate then, that science is not an entity unto itself. It's more so a method and an approach to studying specific phenomena.
Yeah.
So to say that other cultures do not have science would be to, in essence, argue that basically they are not a people. Now, they may not have the, physics, and know about Maxwell's equations and things of that nature. But on some level, they had to know a little bit about architecture. They had to know a little bit about pharmacology. And to an extent, people don't understand that even fighting in war is a science. So let's say, for example, that Europeans didn't have any other kind of science. What is clear is that they have mastered the science of war, which is why they've been able to conquer the planet in the way that they did, because they understand fighting. And also, I think that they've mastered more than anybody psychology and propaganda, in the way that the human mind works and how to utilize that as an instrument of warfare. And so it seems like, and I think someone else brought this up in the chat room, that everywhere these indigenous Black cultures were, these other groups of so-called white people came and conquered them. And so it begs the question, if you had all of these sciences, why didn't you develop a means of defense that could, that could repel permanently European type people from these areas or whatnot? And so, I think that science isn't a single entity that someone can say, here is science, but more so that it's different approaches to the study of certain phenomena in their environment. So I'm pretty sure that if Africans did not live in South Asia, for a long time, they couldn't come over and just say that, we have all the pharmacological knowledge, where these people had to, to live in this area for a long time and study their environment. So they had to have learned something, from their environment in order to survive there for so long. And so the science is a systematic study of the way that the natural world operates. And so they wouldn't be able to survive, us as humans, because we have really no natural defenses. And so it's not like we can blend into the environment and a tiger walks by us and, doesn't see us or something to this nature. We have to use our brains.
Yeah.
So, what do you say against, because I just already know, me being a researcher, these types of questions coming, so I'm preparing you for it.
Yeah. I see.
So go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, this is a very interesting question, and it will help us to, let's say, this will help me to be more accurate, in my answer.
Okay.
But your comment is not from what I understood, and I think that I understood your comment very well.
Okay.
Your comment is not about science itself. I mean, this activity to understand how the nature operates. You see, every people anytime had to do that, but the black people in this specific way could reach level that no one could even dream of. Now, why is it that the black people could not survive and were killed by the others? This question is not related to science itself. It's related to the use of science. So this is related to the spirituality and the experience that black people and not so-called white people, they are white people, and they call themselves white people, so I call them white people. So this is more about the use of this knowledge and the tools that you can forge from this knowledge. This is a very serious difference between the black people and the others. I told you about the spirituality. Black people, you know that from the ancient times, 400 years ago, we already knew about the energy about from the atomic energy. You say that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we knew about that. This is in the ancient text that I think you read on Egypt. We had this high level of knowledge, but why didn't we build atomic bomb, for example, to kill the people? Because we have in our spirituality some cultural values. In our culture, the human being is the most important. The life. Our culture is about life. The culture of those white people in the other side is about death. This is the difference. The black people, we cannot see it and plan to destroy another kingdom, even if it's the enemy. Why? Because the society, I mean the institutions, cannot permit such a plan. It's impossible. In the population itself, you will find some people or some organization or some institution who will fight your plan to destroy other people, even if they are your fierce enemy. You see? Because the culture, the civilization praise life. And everything that African people and black people in general do, it's about life. In Asia there, I can say Chinese culture, the Korean culture, and whoever there, the purpose of the civilization is not about life, it's about death. It means that we must survive at all costs, even if we have to suppress the whole universe. This is the project. This is about death. This is the big difference. The second reason why the white and the black realms and principalities were destroyed eventually, because they fought. They were not just like that, like victims crying. No, they fought. but there were small, I mean, kingdoms, small kingdoms or medium-sized kingdoms, but not enough to face a better organized opponent, shaped for fight, thinking to kill days and night, because this is their culture. It's natural for them. Black people think about life, the other they think about death. This make a difference because it's an attitude. And until today in Africa, Africa is attacked by always. Even now in Central Africa, you have women, children who are raped by foreign armies. For example, the French armies. This is official in the newspaper. You find this information, but nobody does anything. You can do that in Asia. You can even in the Middle East. You can do that. You see, or even those countries are under. The most powerful country in the world now, which is the USA and its allies. But when it comes to some countries, they know that there are some limits, there are some boundaries. In Africa, everyone can do anything because they know that the violence is not institutional. The violence is not an institution. This is the specificity of Africa. I don't see that is a weakness. It's not a weakness. It's the proof that certainly we black people we had to behave like the others, but very long time ago. And the process of because the civilization is not about building. It's not about the power of your army or building the most destructive bombs or military system. This is not the civilization. The civilization, from our African point of view, is about shaping the human. From a killer, you have to be a wise man. Do you understand the process? This is the path of the civilization from African people. They live like that. They have armies, but their armies are like kind of defensive armies, not offensive. And this makes a very big difference when you are living in Asia 2,000 years ago. So kingdoms by kingdoms, step by step, those realm by realm, those people were killed, suppressed, and they have to immigrate. So Kudara is also, I think, the result of a large immigration of scholars and those people of high quality who was running away of fleeing from that mass, that's institutional violence in the west side of Asia. So they went to take some refuge, I think, in Kudara or in PAEKCHE, as you say. So we are different. We are following two different paths. This is the difference between the black people and white people. We have two different civilizations with two different profiles, patterns, two different, even opposed, I could say.
It's interesting that you said what you just said, in that I've been doing research for like the past 10 years.
You know what? Hold a second.
Go ahead.
I will, because we are going forward, so I'm going to go to the to pay more to have a longer, because I'm in a web cafe, you see.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, just a second, please.
I know. Okay. Well, while we wait on our guest to come back, again, this is Brother Bayemy Biyick, and we are talking about the details of his book called PAEKCHE Principle, or the PAEKCHE Principle, The Great Secret of Asia. And we're talking about the Kudara people, who were a group of Africans, which he argues are Africans, and how their genocide, was basically covered up by the official historians.
Sorry.
of Korea and Japan. I'm sorry.
Are you talking to me or to the audience?
Oh, I'm talking to the audience. I'm sorry.
Sorry. Go ahead.
It just put me aside. So I'm just kind of recapping and reintroducing you to those who had just come into the conversation. And so so that's what we're talking about here today. And we're kind of jumping from place to place, but they're all connected to the central topic in which we're saying here. So I'm very appreciative. Again, our guest is actually in Paris as we speak, and so I'm on the East Coast here in Philadelphia. It's a 4-hour, no, maybe a 6-hour. If you're in Paris, 6-hour difference.
Wow.
So it's pretty going into the evening out there, and so we're having this discussion. But before he left to go put more money into the meter, as we would say. I was discussing, kind of reflecting on the commentary that you just said, and I just did a few months back a lecture at a ASCAC conference in Washington D.C., where I'm talking about what I call the human beings versus Homo sapiens, and how the African cultures primarily are about the development of human beings, and how to be human for us deals with your character. It's not a biological trait or whatnot. And so, I went into the biology, the Homo sapiens, and what characteristics are associated with the hominid species versus the human beings, which is based on the development of Africa, the development of a systematic culture of being human. And you kind of touched on that. And throughout my research, because I've been researching this for like the past 10 years, I've discovered that there's a fundamental break in our history where the culture and attitudes kind of change. And I pinpointed to the combination of nomadic mode of production and the integration of pastoralism. Now, you'll notice that a lot of these conquering countries and people, whether they're African or not, have a common denominator. They're all come from groups who are nomadic pastoralists. So whether you're talking about the Fulani and what happened with the Fulani, and their role in the transatlantic slave Holocaust in developing these societies, whether you're talking about even some of the early ancient Egyptians, whether you're talking about the British, the Germanic tribes, just the Proto-Indo-Europeans in themselves, or whether you're talking about the Mongoloid peoples with the example of like Genghis Khan in all of those. They all have the same tradition, and it is the development of this warrior tradition, because we have to be warriors all the time, because we're trying to protect our cattle, which is our main source of prestige and wealth, is in cattle. So you got to fight other human groups who are trying to steal your cattle, and you got to fight the natural predators of the land that is trying to steal your cattle and eat it as well. And so you have to develop a different type of psychology to be a nomadic pastoralist and to go into new environments with new predators that you may have not come across, or that you kind of expect. So these predators have evolved over millions of years to be top predators. And now here you are as a Homo sapien with no natural defenses, having to battle against these elements. So it's a different psychology that develops. And saying all of that to say, when you're talking about these, for example, these Chinese coming and mass murdering and taking over the wealthy, you was looking for that question of why. One of the things that I discovered is that for nomadic pastoralists to exist for long periods of peace, diminishes their wealth. So they have to go and raid others. Like this is a universal behavior of nomadic pastoralists. They always raid.
And why? No, and what you're saying that this is the most important of your development about the pastoral people. And this makes the difference between those pastoral people and the agricultural civilization, which is our civilization. You see?
Yeah.
Because the peace for them means that they're gonna their richness gonna be less and less.
Yeah.
So they have to go back to chase or to steal and to kill, because this civilization in how do you say that? This because I hardly call that a civilization. This culture, let's say, this culture doesn't create. It's not a culture of creation, of developing something. They rely on other peoples or other countries or other kingdoms, work or fruits or how do you say? No, grabs. You say, how do you say? Wait. Sorry for the audience, but I have to harvest. Yeah, they need to harvest in other people's fields. See? Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I mean that is the basis of it. And this, when you talk about early Hebrew and early Arab culture, like when Muhammad got his revelation from God, soon after that, they started doing caravan raids. As soon as the Hebrews allegedly came out of slavery in Egypt, God commands them to go raid Canaan and to take their booty and stuff like this. That's the psychology of storyline. And it goes to like that cows and cattle can only have so many children, at a time. And so if, over time they're gonna be dying off, so they're just replacing each other. So the wealth, if you have a certain amount of cattle, your wealth kind of stays steady. So in order for you to get more cattle, you have to go raid and take other people's cattle that have cattle, because that's the only way you can increase. And with increase of cattle is increase of wealth. And so that attitude, even though the means of production have changed, it's still the same. So for us over here in the United States, of course, I'm speaking about the white people here in the United States, they can't operate in a long period of peace. That's why we got to invade Iraq. We got to invade Afghanistan. We got to invade Libya. We got to shoot missiles at Syria. Why? Because they have resources that we don't have. And so if we go over there and steal it, then of course we increase our net worth and our power and prestige. And so it's so it's, to me, it's not an issue of black and white. It's just like you said earlier, like the early civilizations, we didn't really distinguish, between but it's more so the culture, the attitudes that have been institutionalized and systematized that fundamentally makes the difference. Go ahead.
Yeah, but nevertheless, it's a matter of black and white, because the agricultural civilization is a black civilization. I know no white culture and no white people having this black civilization or following this black cultural civilization. Or I don't know everything. I may be let's say I'm willing to learn more about history, but from my little knowledge, I found no people following black people's civilization. The only exception is, for example, Greeks in from let's say the 5th to the 2nd century before this era, who came to Africa in special conditions and learned whatever they learned to build the Greek civilization in Greece, which is totally African. But you notice that They learn African civilization, not only science, but everything that they used to be the Greek civilization, and they applied it in their own way. Because this Greek civilization, which is quite brilliant, also means that they were practicing slavery. They were practicing slavery and many other things that many other they have many other incredible values for us Africans, because slavery is just like it's something that is incredible. You can't sell human beings. It just doesn't make sense. You see, but it was the core of both Greek civilization and Roman civilization, portraying themselves as democracies. So they were practicing democracies, and in the same time, uh, uh, buying and selling human beings. I mean, human beings for us, and and portraying themselves as the highest possible civilizations. You see, and the European countries today has chosen this Greek and Roman civilization are their model, and they are modeling on them. So you have today in the 21st century the same thing. You have democratic systems and countries, developed countries, which in the same times practice colonization and and destroy countries every day. And this doesn't bother or shock anyone. Nevertheless, I'm still thinking that this makes a difference between black and white people, because the both never mixed. The only place where I saw a kind of mixed was this area in the peninsula. This period from the 3rd to the 7th century, and it's so exceptional that I see this Kudara kingdom like a kind of real-time cultural experience because it looks like anything else I saw in history. You see, so when I make this difference between black and white people, I'm just describing the reality. It's not my opinion. It's not a personal opinion. It's just the reality, and we still see the difference today. Now, even if we had this cultural civilization, anyway, the civilization as we describe it in Africa comes from agriculture. Agriculture is really the core activity for this. From the agriculture you can produce the wealth. From agriculture you're going to develop the cult of the ancestor, how do you say ancestor, ancestor,
ancestral veneration.
Veneration. I was thinking about another word, and so on. You see, and from agriculture you're gonna develop science, because you need to know about astronomy to make sure that you can run this business in the most efficient way. You see, this is how everything took place. Now, we black people, we are not like black people also used to organize themselves to protect their wealth. You see, but defensively. This is how, for example, Kemet could emerge and strive. You understand? Because we could protect our kingdom. This what they call Egypt. We could have not reached this height of culture, civilization, and knowledge, and whatever you can imagine, without a military force. This is not possible. And you know that, for example, the king Ramses II, he had to lead, to start some wars to protect the kingdom. You know that, up to outside Africa. We had the military, but this kind of activity is not the heart. I mean, the core of the civilization. if we can avoid war, it's better for everyone. So as long as you don't attack black people, they will never attack you.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the way it works. But I think that we have to change this. And now in Africa, people are changing this because we have to change. Right now, Africa, I mean the part where you have the majority of the population is black, is black people. This all those countries, whether they are English speaking countries or French speaking countries, they are more or less in the same situation. These countries are under control, and those populations are in danger. The more I speak with African people from there, the more I see that they are aware of this, and people state of mind is changing, especially in among the youth, the young population, the youth, they are changing. So we will probably shift from the peaceful attitude to a more aggressive attitude in the short term. This is what is going on there.
And then the question, what kind of people will we become? And that's another discussion in itself. But I know you're on the in the internet cafe, and this is costing you the longer that we're on here. So I'm gonna wrap this. I'm gonna wrap this up soon. And so again, I appreciate you taking this time out to have a conversation with me and my audience, and to discuss your works. And I look forward to fully reading it, and I will spread the word, and we'll continue to have discussions on the implications of your research. And so for those who may not have caught it, tell us again the title of your book and where can they get it.
Yeah, thank you, brother Asar, for this very long and so interesting, interesting interview. And thank you for our audience to have been so so patient. And my English was not perfect, but hopefully I could make them understand the most important thing. So the book itself, the book's title is PAEKCHE'S Principle: The Great Secret of Asia. We talked about that great secret, and it's already available on lulu.com, lulu.com, and it's gonna be soon available in Ebook store. This is a matter of process, the internal process there of validation, and so that's it. So now, I'm still the research process is over. I mean the main research process. Now I went to the details so that I can, let's say, reconstruct what was erased. So in order to be able to write a literary series. So because this kind of research book is interesting, but it's better if we can write down a story and put all that in motion. I don't know if you can see. Yeah. So this is what I'm doing these days.
All right. Once again, this is Brother Bayemy, Biyick, if I'm pronouncing it correctly.
Perfect.
And you're from Cameroon. There's this brother I'm trying to get out of Cameroon. He's so hard to find. What's his name now? It's I forgot his name already. I know he's a student of Dr. Pierre Omendiji, if I'm saying that correctly. If you're familiar with him.
And probably, and right now, no, I don't see. But he's working on what kind of subject or what?
Egyptology. They're both Egyptologists. So I think Pierre Omendiji is the first bona fide Egyptologist in Cameroon. And what is this cat's name? Hold on one second. I'm gonna find out right.
I came to read some articles or research works on Egyptology, but this is not really my field, really. But
it will add. See, that's just the thing. Egypt is so critical to the understanding of African history in general.
Right.
That, you know, at some point you're going to have to get very familiar. His name is Emmanuel Biton. That's his name.
Emmanuel Biton. I think Biton. Maybe I heard that name, but yeah, it sounds a bit familiar. I heard that name, I think.
I've been trying to find him for the longest, and I just can't find him. And I'm gonna need to find somebody in Cameroon. But I know Cameroon's a big place, but just somebody in Cameroon, because I need to get. And the reason why is because he wrote his PhD dissertation is about the divinatory origins of the hieroglyphic script. So when you was talking about the ideas, you know, that Mboli was talking about, and this transference into to the script and the spirituality, you know, so, you know, and I agree with everything you say. Like, everything is born from the spirituality, you know, and so even the writing script, you know, like even like you have other African groups who have writing, but it's relegated to the spiritual component, the divination, like with the for example, the Dogon, you know, they have so many, they have like over like 1,000 characters, but unless you're in the priesthood system, you won't know it, you know. And so the Egyptians took it from the divinatory aspect to, you know, being more open and public with it, to writing down their thoughts. And so
right.
But I also do this lecture called The Fall of Egypt as the Catalyst for the Transatlantic Slave Trade. And so I've been able to reconstruct the history enough to show that when Egypt fell, it opened up their markets where they were getting a lot of their goods from inner Africa. And this started the scramble for Africa, coming from the Middle East, first on the east coast of Africa, and then from the Europeans after the fall of Spain, after the fall of the Moors out of Spain, you know, for West and South Africa, because they were all trying to get to East Africa because, and this is some more information that would lend support to your arguments, Africans were already doing trade with India and China in prehistoric times, and even at the times of the pharaohs. And so there's always been human beings going back and forth between India, China, and that area, and the east coast of Africa.
Yeah, but when we talk about those ancient times, it's we can't say India itself, because there is no India between, you know, and
you gotta give them a sense of place, you know.
But I know that you know such details. Even China, there is no China. This word China, for me, before 618, there is no China. China is they constructed China afterwards. You see?
Yeah.
So these exchanges between Kemet or Egypt and those regions in Asia is exchanges. From my point of view, these are facts to research or to precise But these are not exchanges between black people and Asian people. No, this is exchanges between black people in Africa and other black peoples there. You see?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you were right about the fact that Egyptology is very important for when it comes to study the history of Africa or black people in general. And in fact, I will come to that. This is in my program. I have no choice.
Yeah.
And in the other side, from now, I have to start very serious studies in Japanese.
Yes.
In Japanese, the Japanese language is very important now to investigate some more information in the linguistic field, let's say, you see. But frankly speaking, I can do all this and write down a literary series. It's impossible. So I planned that we're gonna gather together. We're gonna make a kind of how do you say that in a basketball? Dream team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A research team.
A research dream. A research dream team. Yeah, can you say that?
Basically.
Yeah, because we're gonna save time, and we're gonna work together anyway. We have to do that. Yeah. Because as a start, each of us can work alone in his own like lab, but we have reached this level when we have to gather together and gather our works, our results, and decide what to do, and to get to get some food to give to our people. Because whatever we are talking about today is not only about research; it's about the reality. Because the what is it at stake in my research is that our ancestors they disappeared, they were killed, there is nobody there anymore. But there's a legacy. For example, whatever you have in South Korea now, what South Korea displays are their history and their the cultural heritage. This is our cultural heritage. Yeah, you see, and so on. There's a lot of things to pass to our people, to strengthen the conscious, the how do you say the historical conscious. I don't know if it makes sense in English. Is it okay?
Yeah, we say it all the time to restore the historical consciousness.
Yeah, the consciousness. That's it. To the historical consciousness, and to help people to have a stronger identity, even whether personal or the identity of the community. You see. But nowadays in Africa, we are thinking of more not more practical, more real projects such as some economic projects. So this is a subject for another show. You see.
Yeah, that's what Diop is always stressed. He's like, I've done what I can, but it takes me so long to master all these fields that the next step is to build research teams, and then of course to utilize this information for the building. Now his dream was the United States of Africa.
Yes.
And so, that may be the next step, saying for us.
Yeah, we have
go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, sorry, nothing. It's okay. Go ahead.
No, I'm just basically agreeing with you.
I was just about to say the same.
No.
This is but when I say we are researchers, we deal with some matters who are sometimes difficult to make easy for other people to understand, right? But we do our best.
Yeah.
Even if we have sometimes to use some languages we are not used to. But what I will try to do, because I mentioned in the second or the third page of the book that my copyrights, or you say royalties or copyrights,
Uh-huh.
will be dedicated to the setup of a foundation. So basically, this money is not going in my pocket. You see, yeah, because this research program about the history of Asia is part of a more important program, which is a cultural and economic program. We're going to use this money to invest in Africa. Why in Africa? Because our sisters and brothers in America also need help. But we have to make a choice. Each of us, we have to make a kind of sacrifice. We have to focus on Africa, because as long as we have no control on Africa, we black people outside Africa, we will always suffer. You know that there was a woman who was a minister. She was a minister in Italy, and we had another secretary of justice. You say in the USA, she was secretary of justice in France. You know, those women in Italy, in France, they are in the government, and people treat them as monkeys. Do you imagine that? You see that whatever is your social status outside Africa, as long as Africa is not strong, we will still be slaves. You see, so our research programs are not only for fun. Our people, we should remember that we are very conscious of the situation, and all of us, whether scholars or not, we are doing our best to convert this kind of finest knowledge to real tools that people can use. That will be the purpose of the foundation. I didn't tell you about that, so you are just learning about it with our audience, right? Yeah. So as long as soon as I can do that, I will gather this money, and I will set up the foundation. I mean, a structure with a website or something that people can get in and check whatever is on, you know?
Yeah.
And I mean the projects and whatever, so that everyone can join us, and we can gather, we can join our forces with other black organization in the world, because we have the same goal, you see? Yeah. So
most definitely. And I mean, that's the Afrocentric enterprise here in the States as well. You know, we have the same attitude. So I'm with you 100%, and I encourage all of my listeners to purchase the book, which is PAEKCHE'S Principle, The Great Secret of Asia. And you have to go to lulu.com right now to get it. I'm pretty sure with Lulu, they will extend it all the way into Amazon. And if I'm not mistaken, you have it in 2 languages. So those who, you know, comprehend le français, there's a French version of the text. And then, of course, for all of you in the chat who are scared that another French speaker that I've introduced is going to have another work strictly in French, no, there's an English version, you know, of this text. So,
thank you very much.
So for all my English speakers who don't speak French or read French, it is in English. So you can pick that up today, and you know, continue that conversation. So I apologize for the background, but our brother had to come to an internet cafe, so everybody in the cafe is having a conversation just like we are. But you can pick up the book and get all of what he just said in the silence of your own home. So I encourage you to, again, go to lulu.com and pick up PAEKCHE'S Principle, The Great Secret of Asia. Our guest today is Brother Bayemy Biyick. And
yes,
I thank you again, you know, saying for coming on. And we hope to have you again soon. And also, for those who, you know, may want to ask you some questions that, you know, we didn't get to today, are you on social media, and can they get in contact with you that way?
Oh yeah, sure. We have I made a kind of official email, which is PAEKCHE'S Principle in one word at gmail.com. Or we have a page on Facebook, which is PAEKCHE'S Africa. PAEKCHE'S Africa, and on Facebook, they are brothers and other people. I mean, we are really open to anyone who is interested in this story of Kudara, of PAEKCHE, or the ancient Asia, you know. So the name of the page is PAEKCHE'S Africa. PAEKCHE is PAEKCHE. Normally, if you type it, I think PAEKCHE'S Africa will come. Will come as a result.
And for those who are not catching it live, I will go into the description box, and I'm gonna put that information, the exact links, you know, to it in the description, so you'll be able to follow it from the page below.
Yes.
So I'll have that ready for you, and I want to thank you once again.
Yeah, thank you.
And to the listening audience, until next time, y'all have a great day.
Yeah, but you know, just a little detail.
Okay.
I up to now I decided not to be to send the book to Amazon.
Okay.
Because for some for the following reason. Because when I sell on Lulu, I have, let's say, 50% of the price.
Yeah.
Before taxes.
Mm.
When the book is sold on the Amazon, I have almost nothing. Yeah, it means that when people buy the book, I pay, let's say, $6 or $7 US. When someone buy the book, it's just like I'm buying the customer, right, to Amazon. So it means that I write and publish the book, but it's Amazon who is taking all the money. I found no reason to publish with Amazon or to distribute the book with Amazon. So for the moment, people must go to lulu.com, and in 2 weeks, let's say, or 3 weeks, in iBook store from Apple.
All right.
Yeah, this is my choice. So I would better spend this money Amazon would have made in advertisement. Instead, you see, this is the choice I made. It's a kind of marketing choice, but I think it's a smart choice, because I'm not an employee of Amazon.
Understand.
Yeah, they are great people, but yeah, that's it. So yeah, so far we're gonna have 2 retail chains. Let's say lulu.com, lulu.com, and a bit later iBook store from Apple. That's it.
All right, y'all heard it first. So make sure y'all go to lulu.com and get you a copy of his text.
Yeah.
So with that said, I will see y'all later.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you very much for your precious time, and for making this contact with our wonderful audience. Yeah, really. But thank you very much, and hopefully we're gonna meet again for another show. And it's gonna be my honor to participate again.
Yeah, we initiated him into Google Hangouts, so he'll be a pro come the next time, for this program. So, all right, talk to y'all later. Until next time.
Yeah, thank you.